Android development is exciting, but confusing at first, particularly with this new language, or new to you maybe, Kotlin. So what I'm going to walk through today is building an app. Step by step, I'll show you how. I'll give you the code in the description below, and I'll code it along with you. What this app is, well, it's Simon Says, right? It's the user's just gonna the user's going to follow a color pattern and get as far as they can. And what it's doing, what I'm demonstrating here, it's intent. And intent allows you in Android to go from one activity to the next, or one screen to the next, and maintain data. So you can switch between screens, maybe between color screens, and maintain that data. I'm going to get started. Empty activity. I'll name it something creative here. Simon Says app. Make sure it is Kotlin, and notice that I have it at Jelly Bean 4.3. And it's going to get built. Uh-oh, it's going to think about it. All right, here we are with our main activity. Now, I'll tell you from the get-go, I've sped this up a bit to make it easier to follow. Relative layout. So I did switch that layout to relative, and that is what we're going to need. I'm going to put the text at the top, right? So text view is going to say Simon Says. I just moved it to the top. I feel like it's more of a title that way. And now I'm in design view. All right, let's see what we can do. For starters, I'm going to give it an ID of title text, and then we're going to switch up the size because that's the title of the, well, application's text. Or, yeah, that's the title size. Layout, center horizon, and notice horizontal, and notice that I'm just using the search function. I'm going to choose casual because I feel like Simon Says it's kind of a fun kids game. And then I did make it a bold font. Now for the margins, I just want it a little bit down from the top. That looks good. And I am going to make it white, which is going to make it disappear for a sec because we're going to change up the background color. Let's go ahead and add an image. Just to make it a little more welcoming, I'm just going to do the star in the icons that are provided with Android Studio. For this tutorial, it makes it easier than finding an image. All right, let's do an ID star image. Width layout is 250, and then height is going to be 115. Right, making it substantial without stretching it out too much. Just gives a little flair to our front title page. All right, and then we do want it below the title, and let's make sure it is centered, so center horizontal. And yeah, let's give it a bit of room from the title. Sure, 80 dp. And now time for the start button. And I just am gonna give it the idea of start BTN. Okay. And let's change the text to say, shockingly start. And yep, let's search for style. I want it bolded. And then let's make it larger, not as large as the title. Ooh, that's big. Perfect. And I just placed it under star image and centered it horizontally. And widening it to 330 dp, and then the width, ooh, I don't want a max width. Probably gonna go back and change that in a sec. And let's make it go. Now I'm gonna switch up the color. Kind of up to you. Sure, I like that color. And then FFF in hex is just white text. And it looks a bit thin. Yep, max width. Just regular width. Regular height. There we are. And, we want our title to appear. And to do that, we need to give the relative layout a color. Apparently, background, there we are. Oh, sure, I'm gonna settle on that. So ta-da, we have our start screen. Okay, and well, that's just the start. I'm going to do a little bit of formatting. It's just easier to read this way. You can get a look at the code. Again, the code is in the description. That's looking good. All right, let's do new activity, empty activity. And I'm going to call this green because it's going to be for the color green. Because remember, the user is going to have to follow a pattern of colors. So I'm going to switch over. Oh yeah, I'm just putting the Kotlin for main activity, kind of putting these in order. Go to text view here. They are going to have some similarities. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. Make sure you change main activity to green. Okay, and there it is, our preview real quick. Image view. I don't need that little icon on this page, but I will need some buttons. So we want this button below the title text. We don't need it to have any text, so let's get rid of that. And we aren't going to have it bold. I'm going to leave the text size, and you'll see why. The ID, green BTN. Let's move that to the top for readability. No, that text color will be good. And the color of the button, well, let's make it green. And what I'm doing there is 00FF00, right? Red, green, blue. FF is the value of, well, 16, you could say, in hex. It's a value of 15 in hex. It's a value of 15 in hex. All right, let's copy and paste. We need 4 buttons, red, yellow, blue. Wait, green, yellow, blue, and red. And we're going to do them in that order. So I've already changed the ID to yellow now. I'm going to switch the margin up to 5, although that looks a little close. 10 maybe. It's a bit better. Okay, that's looking good. And so let's paste it. And now I need a blue button and a red button. So change that to blue, change this to red. Yellow, I want that one beneath the yellow button. I want that one beneath the blue button. And I'm going to change the background to blue, which in hex is 0000FF. And then I change the red, I'm changing the red to red. All right, and let's switch the background color, of the screen. Perfect. Although green would make more sense. Wait a minute. This activity is green. I'll go back in a sec. All right, and now I'm changing up the margins just to make the margins a bit bigger. Notice, though, the margin top is 10 for the buttons. And finally, one more button, and this is going to be the restart button. And so what that's going to be used for, well, is to restart. If they win or lose the game, this button is going to be the restart button. I'm copying and pasting the blue button in particular because it's going to appear over the blue button. And it's just, again, it's just going to say restart. There we are. And restarts is its ID. And there we are. Get a color. Oh, and this one needs a visibility property, and that is because it's going to be invisible until they win or lose, right? They don't need the button there until they win or lose. It would also make it inaccessible. It would make the blue button inaccessible because it would appear on top of it. That is looking great. All right, let's save all of that. I just reset the window because I hate how much it can change. And now we're ready for the code, not just the XML, right? So we're going to be using Kotlin. And if Kotlin's intimidating, don't be intimidated. This is for absolute beginners. We're going to use intent, right? We're going to use this thing called intent in Kotlin to be able to switch between our screens, red, green, blue, and yellow. What intent allows us to do, it allows us to put data into this object, into this data storage structure called intent, and pull it out in the next activity, in the next screen, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get started, but think of intent as the glue. Okay, think of it as the glue between activities, right? Or the glue between the screens that allows us to switch from one to another and store our data. All right, so define needed variables. I'm just commenting. My first one, random, notice it's equal to, in parentheses, 0.3. What that is it is dot random in parentheses. That is creating a random number between 0 and 3. Keep in mind that is inclusive. So the number could be 0, 1, 2, or 3. And the next up, I have val colors. I'm using the declaration val for this variable because it's going to be unchanged. Same with all colors. We're not going to really be changing the variable itself. So, and what we're doing there is we're doing array of, and then I'm listing out the items. The all colors one, array list, right? So four colors is a standard array. All colors is an array list. And in the between greater than less than, it says string because that is casting our variable. It's somewhat unique. Well, it's somewhat different than like C++ or JavaScript in that way. We're casting that variable, and what we're doing is casting it to an array list of 4 colors random. So we're adding to that list a random color, right? Whatever our random is, the random number we get, we're using that as the index for 4 colors, and we're adding it to our array list. Okay, now moving down to where we're at, for I in 0 to 3, I know it's weird, but this is a for loop, I in between 0 and 3, again, inclusive. And what do? Well, now I use our random variable, and I redefine it to another random number, and I'm adding it to all colors. All colors is our array list. And add 4 colors random. So I'm using our 4 colors, the 4 colors we have available, and I'm using our random number to append to the end of our all colors list array list, these new colors. So with my loop being 0 to 3, that means this size of this array, well, and since these are inclusive, is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. Right? So it's going to be 4, except it's actually going to be 5 because when I declared all colors, I added a color to it right then. So if I changed this 3 to 50, there'd be 51 colors the user would have to know before they win. And now on this down here on start set onClick listener, right? An onClick listener, I'm declaring the intent. And then after intent is this main activity. That is the page we're on. And where do I want to go? Well, when they click, I'm saying go to the green class, which is our other activity. Intent.putExtra. Notice I'm putting count and store inside. The values right there are their defaults. Oh no, these are the values I'm assigning. So both are set up to be 0. And then to make this all work, start activity intent is what actually is going to execute to take us to our next activity, which is here. So what we want to do now, let's change this to green. Yeah, because this is the green activity. And we're going to start making these buttons function and take us to another activity. What we're going to do is program, we need a score. Okay, we need score at the top because we're going to keep track of the user's score. So I'm just going to use a text view. Let's give it the ID of score. And let's set it to 0 as the starting score. And then, yep, we're going to align it there. And so align parent true, align parent end, text alignment, text end. And you can see it tiny right now. Let's switch the color to white. Oh, casual, of course. And then bold. And the color, I need a hashtag. There we are. We need a little bit of a margin. There we are. So what this application is going to do, the colored activities, and we will have an activity for each color, right? I'm going to get started with the variables here. We will have an activity for each color. but honestly, they're going to be essentially the same. And the point of this is, one, it's a fun, easy way to make a game, and very approachable for beginners if you're intimidated. And two, it lets us play with intent and moving data between screens, because that is critical to making any app, right? A one-screen app is going to be a fairly simplistic and boring application. So it is a bit redundant how I am doing this. That is on purpose. I want all of us to be able to, well, approach this and learn. When something shows up red like button is, I'm going to hit Alt Enter, and it's going to add that to the import up at the top. All right. And then it won't be a problem. Notice it's no longer red. Since we have 4 buttons, I'm just copying and pasting yellow, red, yellow, blue, and then red. And then find view by ID. I'm casting all of those to buttons, and then r.id and the button IDs. Now I need my restart button. I need to use find view by ID, cast it to button r.id, and the button ID. That looks good. So at this point, we're going to grab some information from intent. And intent would have been passed to green, well, at this point from main activity. So intent.getIntExtra, yes, that's only for int. And then what we have here is the name. So I'm using the reference, which we assigned earlier. We assigned a main activity score. So I'm asking intent, hey, give me the score value, and then the default value is -2 if there's nothing. I'm using -2 for error testing. I do the same thing with count, and then my color string, I'm using colors, right? Intent get string array list extra. That's like a sentence. And what's the name of that data? Well, we assigned it the name of colors. All right. Score text. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to update the score each time we get to a new screen to make sure that if there is an update, well, we have the score update. So score.text equals score to string. Okay, now we're going to set it on click listener. Let's get rid of these parentheses, and I'm going to use curly brackets. It's essentially this. So I'm going to copy and paste. Yes, let's import that. Okay, and so I don't need main activity. I need that green, and we'll make this main activity for now. Okay, and all colors doesn't exist. We just called it colors. And so now, once again, when we click on green, we're going to pass all the same information into the intent, and then we're going to start a new activity. Let's also have our yellow button do the same function. And yellow. Oh, I left this as green because the page is green, of course. Oh, big details. If colors count is equal to green, what I'm doing there is I'm making sure that, okay, the user clicked on this button, but is the colors array at count is going to be used to keep track of what item, what number we're on for the user that they have memorized. Did they click the right button? Is the button that Simon wanted them to click on at this point, at this color index, green? And if it is, then we want to execute the activity, which we would need to add a point. Notice the redundancy, right, between green and yellow, which is what I'm demonstrating. We don't want redundant code, so instead of writing this twice, I'm dragging it up into a function. Yes, fun is what makes a function, and the function's onCorrect. I'm going to use the parameter class num is what I called it, right? And that is because I'm going to make an array of the different classes that we might need to go to. For instance, mainActivity.java or green class.java. And I want to get rid of that, and now I can just use my array, activities, and what I'm using? The parameter for the index. So activities array, class number. So when the user clicks on a button, if they are correct, we're going to run onCorrect, and then we're going to pass as the parameter the index of where we would want them to go. So if they're correct on green right now, I'm saying pass the parameter 0, which would make it go to the main homepage. I just copied and pasted it because I am now making blue and red, similar ID here. And I'm thinking we could add another parameter, because why have multiple if statements? So let's get rid of these if statements. All right, let's make sure the title is updated. So if score does not equal count, value temp colors. So if there's not a new color right now, if they're just going through the colors Simon has already said, we're going to make the title text equal to colors count plus 1. So its count would start at 0. So that would just be the color they're currently on. The first color Simon said, the second color, the third. The reason I'm doing val text, which I'm trying to demonstrate here, is that they will get mad at you. Kotlin will get mad at you for hard coding text. So instead, I'm using val temp, assigning val temp equal to our string, the concatenated string, and then using that variable to assign title text, the new text. So the else statement here, Simon says plus. So if the score does equal the count, that means they have reached the end of all the colors said so far, and we want it to say Simon says, and then the new color. That's not going to work because temp isn't accessible. Darn. I was trying to eliminate redundancy. Let's add it back. Okay. All right. And now let's create the function. And again, fun is for function. Game over. So game over is new title string. So that's our parameter, and our parameter is name new title. The variable is declared or cast as a string. Colors count equals new title. Why I'm doing that is because our if statement, when they click a button like blue, it's checking if the current color in the colors spot, colors count spot is blue. So if we change it to something else like the new title, then even if they click buttons, it wouldn't respond, right? So if it's game over, then it won't respond if we change up that text. And what I did next was title.text equals new title, so whatever I pass, and that could be game over, maybe it's you win. I make the restart button visible, and then I change all of the red, yellow, and green buttons to the new title. Let's add an if statement on correct, because what if it's not? What if they are done? So if count plus 1 is equal to colors.size, the size of the color array, well, then we want game over, and we want the new title to display you win. Okay? Else if count equals score, then we want, wait a minute. I'm thinking count should be count equals -1. Then we would want, so if the count is equal to the score, that means we've already displayed the new color, and we're going to restart the count, which is why when I wrote count minus minus, it was wrong. It should be count equals -1, and add a point to the score, and then count plus plus will set our count back at 0, and we can restart and pass all that information into intent. Let's eliminate, and again, so on line 61, I'll fix it a bit later, but count should be count equals -1. Let's eliminate the if statements. They're redundant, and I'm going to use answer casted as a string. Okay. And now all these if statements in our color groups, I'm just going to pass as a string the name of the color, and now it can perform an if operation to check it for us instead of doing it individually within each. There we are. And I need to change those class numbers when I make the other activity. So now we can have it check if they are correct on their button, if they got their Simon Says color correct, right? So colors.count is the index of the color we are currently on. And we need, if it is equal to the answer, if it's equal to the string that has been passed, then we want to perform these functions. Else, if it is not, we would want to make the restart button visible. No. Else, if it is not, we're checking the restart visibility, because if it's not correct, well, if they already won and they're just tapping buttons, we don't care. So the way we would know that is if they win, game over would have run, and the game over and restart would have been visible. So that is why we would be checking the visibility of the button, and if it is not visible, then we're going to run game over because they were still playing the game. Let's reset the window space because it tends to change a bit. And let's see how it is looking for us. Button. Oop. Oh. Oh, okay. So, let's see what's going on here. Oh, of course, I didn't add the code for for the restart button. So, this one I'm going to do on its own. Val variable we're declaring as intent. Intent. Yep. Intent this at, and what you want in this at is the current activity that you are on. So green and main activity, because I'm just going to have restart go to main activity, which makes sense. That's our home screen. Start activity intent. And that looks good. Oh, gosh. Those underlines bug me, so let's just going to change it. All right. Now let's start adding our other activities. So empty activity and yellow, right? And then we need red, blue and red, right? So all of the colors. And again, this is going to be redundant, right? Each color is going to perform the same functionality. The point of this is to demonstrate the functionality of an intent. So we're pretty near done, which is awesome because it's a really fun little game. I'm going to go ahead and then just copy. Oh, yep, I didn't need that. Select all, copy, right? I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. I'm going to be hitting Control V in a second. Select all, paste. Okay, so I'm just pasting all of the text, all of the Kotlin code from green to the others, to yellow, blue, and red. And let's switch up yellow to say, well, yellow. Good. And don't forget on line 14, you also need to switch the color of the activity. And then we're going to need to switch it on line 56 for me. And then finally on the intent, the other intent that we use, which was down near 90. Now let's do the same for blue. Activity should be blue. And because it's, again, the same functionality other than the background screen and just a different activity. And it demonstrates navigating to different activities. So green and red is, and red, and red. Okay, that's looking good. And now we need to select all and paste. I'm trying to show you what I'm doing. Switch to text mode, select all for the activity yellow, and just paste that XML. And we need to change it a few spots here. Line 8, we're going to switch to yellow, and well, the color should probably be yellow. That looks good. And let's do the same for the blue activity. Switch line 8 to be, whoops, to be what? To be blue. And the color, there we go. And finally the red activity and color red. Just make sure we can see the button still. Those look good. Save. Restore window just to make sure it switches them. All right. Let's go ahead. Now what I'm doing on green Kotlin page is I'm expanding this activities array to include all of our new classes or all of our new activities, all of our new screens. So green, semicolon, semicolon, class.java, comma, yellow, comma, red, comma, yellow, comma, blue, comma, red. And let's get that all set up. And then let's switch up these class numbers, right? Because those class nums are used when the player presses the button to actually move them on to the next activity using intent. So let's do that. In blue we did, now yellow, and finally green. All right. We're changing up a few things. What's wrong here? Oh, I need to change green to red. I had green twice, and did I change? No. All right. So the count needs to default to our variable, right? It was on main where we copied that from originally. It was 0. We don't want it 0. We want it equal to the variable each time it is updated. So let's switch green to red and then change this over to the variable. That way the current score and current count, current color they are on gets passed. And count is equal to -1. You want count equal to -1 and not 0, right? So once they get to the end, they get a color added. And you want count to be equal to -1 because right under it, we're still going to use count plus plus. So that will set them at the index of 0. Okay. And now let's update the activities array in main. Yep, there we are. And that way, we're just going to randomize the page that the game starts on. So randomize the activity that it starts on. And oh, I hate the bar at the top in the app. So instead of under styles.xml and values, no action bar is what I changed up. Let's save all. 3 to 0. So it's only going to have 5 colors on this. Because it's inclusive and we add one at the beginning, yellow. Yes. Oh, restart. Let's do it again. Yellow. I'm not that great at this. Game over. I want to win. Blue, 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 red. You win! If you want, you could change the title to 40 SP maybe, and the score to something like 5 to give them a bit more space. Let's see if I can win. Maybe. But, awesome. And now you have a super cool Simon Says app. If you want to share it with others, you would click on Build, then Build Bundles APKS app. You can locate it, upload it to Drive, and download it to a phone. If you're still watching this, you should definitely hit like, hit subscribe. Gives me warm fuzzies, butterflies wings, solves world problems, gives world peace, maybe? Also, if you make something cool, you should share it in the comments below. So hit like, hit subscribe, and check out my code in the description.